I don't know about y'all, but my belly is full from all that Bronson Reed and Odyssey Jones meat. Oh my God, what an episode of WWE Raw tonight. This is the way post-pay-per-view Raws should be. They did a great job. I was thoroughly entertained by tonight's Raw. I thought it was wild. I thought it was action-packed. We saw WWE storyline-wise, going in some certain directions, changing directions, furthering storylines. There was just a lot going on. And I had speculated last week and the week before that maybe since tonight was on Sci-Fi, that they wouldn't pull out all the stops, but they definitely did. I thought tonight's episode was tremendous, and it was an excellent post SummerSlam Raw in terms of what they had accomplished here and some of the surprises that we got. I should have seen this coming, but I'm really pleasantly surprised with the World Heavyweight Championship match that we're going to get at Bash at Berlin. And I really, really enjoyed what they did with Bronson Reed tonight. I mean, we had two segments back to back of guys being super smashed over. I mean, Bronson Reed and then Odyssey Jones and back-to-back segments I thought was awesome. I loved the annihilation and the straight-up murder of Seth Rollins that we saw. If I didn't know any better, I would say that maybe Seth Rollins was written off TV for a short time there. It certainly feels like that could be the case because he took what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tsunamis, something like that from Bronson Reed. And we did see last night on A&E, they had a Becky Lynch biography. And I don't think anybody's really been, fans of WWE have been really concerned about Becky Lynch potentially leaving the company. We know she is going to come back at some point. Maybe that's coming up soon. And Rollins has one last chance to take a vacation with his family before it's balls to the wall full time again for Becky and him. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I don't know how you turn around and have Seth show up on Raw next week after a beatdown like that. It feels like something that he needs to miss some time for. So we will see. But overall, I liked what we saw on the show tonight. We got the new Judgment Day. We saw Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, saw Gunther, saw Gunther's challenger, which turned out to be Randy Orton. Also had, the big Bronson Reed segment. We had Drew out there. We had Punk out there. We had Rollins out there. We had the Wyatt Six closing the show in a tag team match against Gable and the Creeds. Tonight had a lot. And this is what I like to see after a big pay-per-view, especially one of the big four. You got to have a Raw that just is balls to the wall, and I enjoyed virtually everything we saw here on the show tonight. Really, really good stuff. Let me know in the chat if you agree with my assessment. I thought tonight's Raw was really fun. It took me back to how I used to be excited for Raws after pay-per-views. It's been a long time since I, really, really thoroughly enjoyed a post-pay-per-view Raw to this degree. I'm sure there's been a couple here or there that have been very good. But in, recent memory, last 10 or so years, I can't really remember episodes where I would come away from it saying, man, they did everything right tonight. So we will see how things proceed next week and into Bash at Berlin. Then we have Bad Blood, I believe, coming up in October, which will be the pay-per-view after that. Bash at Berlin, Bash in Berlin, I should say, I believe is going to be a pretty small card, usually is with Triple H. So I don't think we're going to get a ton of stuff on that pay-per-view. So we'll probably have to look a little further ahead after the summer and into fall, into October when we get to Bad Blood. So lots to discuss tonight. In addition to tonight's Raw review and all of the post-SummerSlam chatter and the SummerSlam Fallout chatter that we're going to get into here tonight, we're also going to get into a little bit of wrestling news. I'm probably going to save it until the end, but I do want to touch on the Hardy Boys meeting with WWE officials this weekend in Cleveland, MJF's tweet about Vince McMahon, which created some chatter, also the Britt Baker suspension, and we had some news breaking today from our friend Ibu at Wrestle Purists, reporting that Lucha Brothers are expected to leave AEW when their contract is up in just a few months, and they are expected to make the jump to WWE. So we will talk about those items of news here in this episode somewhere, probably at the end, because I think most people want to hear what I have to say about tonight's Monday Night Raw, and we might elaborate, I'm sure we will, elaborate a little bit more on SummerSlam. Now, thank you to everyone who joined us for the weekend. We were here on Saturday doing a full SummerSlam watch party. Then we stuck around for a review. I clipped that out, edited it, and put up a full review of SummerSlam on my channel. Then yesterday we were here doing a classic SummerSlam watch-along, SummerSlam 1993, thanks to those of you who joined us for that last night. And here we are now to talk about Monday Night Raw, 2 days after a very, very good SummerSlam pay-per-view. From what I could tell, social media-wise, after SummerSlam, it felt like most people did enjoy the show, but there were some differing opinions out there. I saw some people whose opinions I very much value and respect hated the CM Punk match. And I saw some same people whose opinions I value and respect loved the match. So some loved it, some hated it. It's just subjective to each their own. Whatever you're into is what you're into. But I don't think anybody has any business telling somebody else that they're dumb for liking something or dumb for not liking something. Like what you like, don't watch it. Don't like what you like. It ain't hard. But I think overall, most of the fans enjoyed SummerSlam and were giving it high marks, even though, they might have had issues with a particular match, or maybe this match they wished it was better than it was. Whatever your opinions are, overall, I think SummerSlam was pretty good. So to see WWE turn right around and hit us with an awesome Monday Night Raw tonight was just nice. It was just nice to see. So we will be getting into all of it here tonight, and we'll start here in just a second. Before we do that, let me just run over here to the chat, say hello to everybody, get a couple of shout-outs done real quick, and then we will get into Monday Night Raw that was opened with Gunther. During the day today, I was thinking to myself, okay, who's going to open Raw? It's either going to be Drew McIntyre or Gunther or Dominic and Liv Morgan. I thought any of those would be very appropriate openings to the show, but I'm really glad they opened with the new World Heavyweight Champion in Gunther tonight. Very cool stuff. We'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do, let me just say hello to everyone here. As I'm doing my shout-outs, do me a favor. That thumbs up button, give that a smash. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not. Super chats and memberships are open. We'll be hitting those too if they come through. Any super chats that get sent, you will be guaranteed to get yours read, and I'll try to do as many shout outs here as we can. Let's say hello to Always Radio. We got Roman Stone, Jacob A, Max Pokebra, and Ajax Johnson, and Zach Palgett. The four of y'all, channel members, good to see you in here. Also see Doug Unfunny. We got Nightbird up in here, Martin Tomlinson. We got Rodrigo, Ben Espinoza. Happy birthday to Ben. Right on. It's always cool when we have birthdays in here. We got Dante Deshawn. Definitely Bronson Reed making a name for himself. That he did. Ken Webb, good to see you. JL. We have Big J, David Brown, Sonic Plays, the DM2K. Pause. How Wheezy, Michael Miraville, Ronnie Matthews. We have Joshua Aparicio and 7th Season and Mr. J. 3 more channel members there. Daniel Barry Sports is here as well. We have Richard Fielding and the Juliet in the house. Justin Kong Lang, Sean Swabby. Let me see who else is here. Liam Williams. I'm probably missing a few, but welcome everyone to the show. Again, thumbs up, likes really help the algorithm. So if you could smash that for me as we get going here, I would appreciate it. And I'm not going to be wasting too much of your time this evening because I feel like there's a lot to get into. And as we start talking about these individual segments and angles and stuff, we might be branching off talking about where they can go in the future. And I still want to talk about some wrestling news. So let's not dink around too much here and get down to business. Tonight's WWE Raw was live from Baltimore, Maryland, and it opened up with Ludwig Kaiser standing in the ring, so you knew that he was out there to announce the new World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther, which he did. Gunther comes out in a suit. He's got the title. We're very accustomed to seeing Gunther with a championship. I mean, he just ended the longest Intercontinental Championship reign in company history this past April at WrestleMania, so he's back with gold over his shoulder again, and the World Heavyweight Championship was the most logical step for him to get to next. We knew even when he was early into his Intercontinental title run, we knew this was going to be the guy. There was absolutely no way that Gunther would not be World Heavyweight Champion, one of the champions in the company at some point. That was pretty much a given. A lot of fans wanted to see him have a big battle with Brock Lesnar and some other dream matchups or whatever, but the way Gunther's been used and utilized in his character and the strength of his character and his personality and his attitude and his aura, I really love everything about the character. I love characters that don't need to be flashy, but are still very compelling characters. I love when he speaks. We're skipping ahead here, but in the confrontation with Randy Orton right at the end of it, and they kind of spoke to each other where only the camera microphones picked them up. And Gunther said to him, like, absolutely nothing catches me out of nowhere. You know, like, you've met your match here, Apex Predator. You ain't going to beat me. I just love that stuff. And there's just something about Gunther that is just very, very attractive as a wrestling fan. He is the real deal. And I'm very happy that he won the title at SummerSlam. So Gunther comes out. He says it's a new era. And he's basically just warning everybody of his upcoming dominance that he's going to be unleashing on the company. I mean, if they're going to copy and paste his IC title run, we can expect this guy being World Heavyweight Champion for quite a while. Now, there's also been talk about Gunther being one of the opponents for John Cena next year during his retirement tour. So John Cena could end up being the guy to beat Gunther for the championship. And since it's his retirement run, I'm going to give him a pass if that happens. But in any other universe, that's really probably not the guy I would like to see beat Gunther. But we're looking way ahead. I don't think his run is going to be as long as his IC run, but I think he should have a healthy one. And he's going to be off to a good start here because when he's speaking, he is then interrupted by Randy Orton. So I don't know why we were talking for weeks prior to SummerSlam about what they're going to do after SummerSlam and who Gunther is going to face at Bash in Berlin. Now, I had speculated and pitched a possible idea of Priest retaining, allowing Gunther to challenge in a rematch in the main event at Bash and win there. But once he won, we were thinking, well, shit, who's his opponent going to be? Because you would think Priest would get a natural title rematch here, but Priest's attention could be focused on Finn Balor, which could leave Gunther wide open for a brand new opponent at Bash at Berlin. And I think we had speculated that Ilya Dragunov could be a good option there. But Randy Orton makes even more sense because of the finish that they did at the King of the Ring between these two guys. And I figured they would both be headed for a showdown at some point, but didn't really think it would be coming right here. And we should have been able to sniff this out because Adam Pearce released some video on social media today, and there was some talk that there could potentially be some talent swapping or a trade taking place between Raw and SmackDown, because it was announced earlier on in the day that Adam Pearce had made a deal with Nick Aldis to allow Grayson Waller and Austin Theory to wrestle on Raw tonight. And that got a bunch of fans thinking that there was going to be a big trade for, get this, Waller and Theory for Jey Uso and Sammy. That way Sammy and Jey can go to SmackDown and be a part of that Bloodline Civil War. Do you hear yourselves? That shit was everywhere. Listen to that trade. What about that trade sounds fair to you? Why in the hell would Adam Pearce agree to that trade? Now, while I love the idea of Sammy and Jey jumping to SmackDown, and I love the idea of a trade, trades would be fun if we could get them semi-frequently, there is no way that that is going to be the trade we're going to get. What might make a little bit more sense is Randy Orton being traded for one of those guys or both of those guys. And hell, there's another guy over on SmackDown as well that just could use a fresh environment, new scenery, and that's Randy Orton's buddy, Kevin Owens. So that would be a little bit more even of a trade if it was Randy Orton and Kevin Owens for Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. We did see a little bit of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn backstage tonight on Raw. Plenty of time to get those guys to SmackDown, but it feels like there are some rumors right now of potentially a talent trade or swap between Raw and SmackDown. And if Randy Orton is allowed to come to Raw and challenge for that championship, you would think theoretically SmackDown would be due some compensation for that. So we will see if this turns into a full-blown trade or if it's going to be like a temporary swap. You're going to use Randy Orton for a few weeks because Randy Orton will not beat Gunther at Bash at Berlin. So Randy Orton, essentially, you would think might go back to SmackDown after that to where maybe he could get a shot against Cody. I guess the Cody and Randy match could be on hold for a while, and Cody could be involved with this whole Bloodline stuff. I mean, there's 4 current new Bloodline members, and if you reunite Roman with the Usos and Sammy, that's 4-4, but what if it's 5-5? What if you add Hikuleo to the group over in the new Bloodline, and then you stick Cody with Roman and company? We could see that, but Orton being here tonight feels like it's going to be a while before we get to, if ever, Cody and Randy Orton, especially in a championship program. It's going to be really hard for Randy to lose the World Heavyweight title shot to Gunther in Berlin and then turn right around and challenge for the championship on SmackDown. I mean, unless he were to win a number 1 contenders match or something like that. But Randy Orton coming out, was a bit of a surprise, but a pleasant surprise. So Randy Orton gets in the ring and he says, he congratulated Gunther on his championship win. He goes, but you only got that shot because you beat me at King of the Ring. But did you really beat me at King of the Ring? And as we remember, that was a really sketchy, wonky looking roll up there where Randy Orton's shoulders were off the mat when Gunther pinned him. So they've left the door open here for a rematch down the line. And I think this is a really excellent place to do it in Berlin because Gunther's your brand new champion. This is the beginning of his run. Champions, unless you're Triple H in 2002, champions aren't going to drop their titles 1 month after winning them in such grand fashion. And I just don't think that Gunther's going to be dropping that belt to Randy Orton in Berlin in his first title defense in the main event of that show. No way. I feel like Randy Orton is absolutely going to lose to Gunther. Because why wouldn't he? But also, that's a great match. That's just a really excellent start. I mean, you're knocking off a former 14-time world champion, bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer, legend, statue-worthy type of dude here in Randy Orton. And I think Gunther is going to make good on what he didn't make good on at King of the Ring and pin Randy Orton definitively right in the middle of the ring. So that's going to be good. I like this match, too, because there is respect between the two. Randy Orton doesn't really have a reason to hate Gunther and vice versa. They had a good match at King of the Ring. Gunther didn't really cheat or anything. It's just Randy Orton had his shoulder up. So there's no reason, for this to be really a blood feud here. So I enjoyed the promo. I enjoyed the dynamic and the back and forth between the two. And I loved the handshake. The handshake was cool. I mean, these are two bad fucking monster hombres here going up against each other. And I just like it. I mean, it's game recognizing games, so to speak, and I think it's a really good face-to-face, head-to-head matchup. I think Randy Orton, he alluded to an NWA clash. Was he comparing him and Gunther to like Steamboat and Flair or something like that? He made some sort of reference to a Steamboat match in the NWA, and this is going to have a little bit of an NWA kind of vibe to it as well with these two guys, and it's going to be fun. And the handshake between the two and Gunther telling Randy Orton in his ear, he goes, nothing catches me out of nowhere. And I love that. It's like Gunther is basically telling Randy, try me. Try it. Try to come in the ring and hit me with an RKO out of nowhere. See what happens. Who says that to Randy Orton? Only Gunther. Only maybe Brock Lesnar. But to see Randy be across the ring from someone who isn't even in the slightest rattled by Randy and how dangerous he can be when he wants to be, and how dangerous that Viper can be. This is a legend killer. This is a head punter. This is a guy that will beat up someone's wife if he's mad enough. And for Gunther just to be like, bring it, bitch. Love that. Love that. So really happy. I did not have this kind of on my radar. It should have been. I'm kind of disappointed in myself that prior to SummerSlam, maybe in the predictions, I said, hey, it would be cool if Randy Orton got a title shot after Gunther wins the title, since they never really had a true finish at the King of the Ring. Never even crossed my mind, but I'm happy that it's happening. That right there is going to be a good one. Also, they had booked Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser one-on-one tonight. So after this whole opening match, Ludwig was back out there to take on Sheamus. Sheamus is fun. I really like him. Just a little backstage or guerrilla interview, I guess he had with Jackie Redmond right before he came out. Just fucking cool. Sheamus is just cool. So it's Sheamus and Kaiser. These guys have had an issue for a while. Kaiser, I thought, had gotten hurt. Glad to see that he's back. During the match, they're on the outside of the ring, and Pete Dunne shows up with that shillelagh again and goes to nail Sheamus with the shillelagh, but he misses, and then Sheamus just kicks Pete Dunne right into the announce table, taking him out, gets back in the ring. Brogue kicks Ludwig Kaiser for the win, and Sheamus picks up the victory there. After that, we had a Wyatt 6 promo where they talked about how the Wyatt family debuted just a little over 11 years ago right here in this building in Baltimore. So they were kind of tying that in to their tag team main event match they would be in later. It was quite interesting. And out comes Damian Priest after that. I believe this is the top of the second hour. Out comes Damian Priest, and we knew he was going to be pissed. And I thought about this after SummerSlam as well, even though Priest is transitioning into being a babyface and it's not really the same thing. Some of his attitude, especially tonight, it kind of just gave me a little bit of a reminder. It had shades of Diesel back in 1995. Remember after he lost the title to Brett? And he just kind of became a little bit more no nonsense, and he was just beating the shit out of guys, and he was no longer going to be, the company's smiley man. Something about Damian Priest's aggression just sort of reminded me of that a little bit, even though it's completely different circumstances. But Priest comes out, he power walks to the ring, and he's calling out Finn Balor. That's who he wants. And he tells Balor to come out and take his beating like a man. Now, this was a pretty predictable segment. This had Balor showing up on the Tron written all over it, with the level of anger that Priest is exhibiting here. There was no way these two were going to be able to stand in the ring and have a verbal back and forth. There's just no way. So I'm just waiting. I'm like, Balor's going to show up on the screen. And sure enough, he does. After Priest, I guess, says, he's talking about the championship. He goes, the championship's not even that big of a deal. I can win that back. But Balor took his title away from him and his fans, and it made him feel like he let his family down, and it was a very, very personal betrayal. So he wants Balor to come out and take his beating like a man. That's when Balor shows up on the Tron, and he says Priest brought it all on himself, and he's showing him a picture of last year's SummerSlam when Balor faced Seth Rollins for the title, came up short, and he referenced in the car ride after the match where Priest told him to, suck it up or whatever it was. He didn't appreciate that, and he's been waiting for a year to pay Damian Priest back. And he says he won't fight him tonight, but JD McDonough will. JD's ready to take you on, and Finn is going to wait. He told Priest that he's going to wait until Priest is comfortable and then attack. I'm going to let you think you're done with me. I'm going to let you think I disappeared. I don't know how they're going to do that. And then right when you think you don't have to worry about me anymore, I'm going to be there standing behind you to attack you. That's basically his threat. And then they kind of pull back. The camera pulls back on a wide shot of Finn, where he's then joined by JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Carlito. And Liv and Dominic are next to each other. And Liv is kissing Dominic on the cheek. Carlito's tossing the apple. And that right there is your new Judgment Day. So Judgment Day did, in fact, implode. And we knew that last week on Monday Night Raw, that was going to be the last time we saw Judgment Day in their current form. And Balor now moving in to be the leader of the group. I'm glad that the group is going to try to have a second run here, or a new identity, and they're not completely scrapping the faction completely. This might lead to it. This might be short-lived and everything's going to crumble around these guys, but it sounds like Balor is going to be given the keys to the car there, and he's going to be the new leader of Judgment Day. And that was another one of his big issues with Damian Priest, is that when they formed the group, they agreed that there were no leaders. Everybody are strong and on the same level. But once you became champion, you went back on your word, and that apparently is another reason why Balor, why Balor did his betrayal at SummerSlam the way he did. So we will see. Now I'm thinking, Priest and Balor at Bash in Berlin, I'm guessing, is what they're going to do. I feel like they're going to have to do that. Or, they might want to save that match for Bad Blood, but that's like 2 months away. So I feel like we'll probably get that at Bash in Berlin, and the segments on TV in the next couple of weeks should be pretty interesting leading up to that. But the whole segment was pretty good with Priest and the reveal of the new Judgment Day. I like that a lot, and I really like Damian Priest's work. I really like his aggression. I like how pissed he is, and the fact that he's got the fans behind him now. And as we would see, him and Rhea Ripley would be standing tall together in the ring a little bit later on. After that, we had a one-on-one match between Lyra Valkyria and Shayna Baszler. During the match, Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark, who were out there backing up Shayna, they jump in the ring to break up a pin, causing the disqualification. They all start beating the hell out of Lyra, and that's when Damage Control, I guess our baby faces now, come out to make the save. And that would not be the last time we would be seeing those ladies tonight. Backstage, we see Ivy Nile and the Creeds. They're talking with Maxine. Maxine's talking to Ivy, or maybe it's just Maxine and Ivy. Maybe the Creeds aren't there. And Gable shows up and basically shoos Maxine away, doesn't want her fraternizing with his new crew. And then it's time for CM Punk. Oh, this is the top of the second hour, not the Damian Priest. It's the CM Punk segment. CM Punk comes out for a segment, and he's all smiles. I mean, after his loss to Drew McIntyre, on Saturday, he's coming out there looking like he's in a pretty decent mood. I'm very happy to see and to hear that CM Punk survived his match with Drew McIntyre, and that he's healthy. I'm so glad we're not reading about a torn triceps or a broken fucking foot or something else crazy that happened to him in the match. That was a hard-hitting, brutal match that he was able to survive. That's a good sign. Let's hope here that we can get a run out of CM Punk. I really, really hope we do. And this segment was the wildest of the night, hands down. So much going on here, and I loved all of it. So Punk's out there. First thing he does is he congratulates his friend, some guy that won some UFC title the other night. I don't watch UFC, so I don't even know who that is. But Punk congratulated him, and he talked about, his WrestleMania season. Now that he's back, he said a lot of people's WrestleMania season started at the Royal Rumble, but mine started on Saturday, and I've had to start from the bottom before. And he wants more of Drew McIntyre because, as Drew can see, he's still standing. He's not even close to being completely annihilated. He survived Saturday, and he's here standing in the ring on Monday. So even though Drew won, he didn't get the job done. And so he's about to call out Drew McIntyre, and that's when Seth Rollins comes out. And we had a feeling he would be out there because he was a big reason why Punk lost the match. Plus, he ate a GTS from Punk. And I'm thinking they're going to set up a match between these two guys. And prior to SummerSlam, I thought Rollins and McIntyre made more sense for Bash in Berlin than Rollins and Punk. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to see Rollins and Punk at Bash in Berlin. So when Rollins comes out to the ring, that's what I think we're going to get. And I'm very happy that we did not get that. And Rollins comes out not dressed the way he normally dresses. He's not out there looking like fucking Steven Tyler. He's out there looking like Hangman Page, wearing all leather, kind of like a cowboy like type of shirt. I'm thinking like he's all bundled up with this jacket. I'm thinking he's going to take off the leather jacket to reveal some crazy outfit or some t-shirt or something, but he's got nothing under there. And I guess Rollins wants to face Punk. He takes off his jacket just to reveal that there's nothing under there. He wants to fight. And then Punk says something on the mic like, yeah, I'll fight you. Like, I'm not the one who dressed like a cowboy, but I'll be your Huckleberry or something like that. And I'm like, huh. And a few fans had mentioned online on social media, on Twitter, when Rollins came out that he looked like Hangman Page. I'm like, was that a subtle shot at Hangman or something? Like, was that Rollins coming out kind of dressing like him and then Punk calling him a cowboy? I don't even know what the point of taking a subtle shot at Hangman would be with these guys. But it does make you wonder if there might be something there to read between the lines on. Don't really know. But right when Rollins is about to jump in there and start fighting with Punk, that's when Drew McIntyre interrupts. He's in the crowd. He's up in the bleachers there. And he's talking smack. He goes, there you are. There you guys are. I don't even know what he says, but he ends up dangling the bracelet. He goes, look what I still have in my possession. It's your bracelet with your stupid looking dog and your lovely wife, AJ. And then Punk just flips. He jumps the barricade. He's making a beeline up the steps into the crowd to go after Drew McIntyre. And McIntyre then runs away, and Punk is going to chase him off, leaving Seth Rollins in the ring all by himself. So I think that's going to be the end of the segment, and they're going to fade to commercial here. But then out of nowhere, from behind, Seth Rollins gets absolutely flattened by a very, very angry Bronson Reed, who did have a segment with Adam Pearce a couple of minutes earlier where, he's wanting something, he wants to get a shot or whatever he's asking for, opportunities or whatnot. And Pierce basically is like, go make your own opportunity, which he did here. He brutally and viciously attacks Seth Rollins. These two guys have had nothing to do with each other on TV. So seeing this was like, oh, wow, this is, because I feel like Bronson Reed, even though he's been on TV, he's impressive. That Tsunami's been protected. I'm not saying they've been using him badly, but he has been a little bit creatively stagnant. So this attack here on Rollins on a big star like this. I'm like, all right, this is great. But they took it like 10 steps further than I thought they would. I thought Reed would just come out, smash Seth, hit him with a tsunami. Officials would come out and pull him away, and that would be the end of it. Oh, no, it was not. He hit him with a tsunami, all right. 6 of them, if I'm counting correctly. I think it was 6 was the final total, right? Might have been 7, might have been 5, but I'm pretty sure it was 6. He went up for a second one. Then he went up for a third one. And the only thing I did not like about this segment is how many officials were out there letting him do this. Seth Rollins is not Yokozuna. It's not hard to lift him up and get him out of the way. You had 100 fucking people in that ring. All you got to do is grab him by his limbs and drag him out of the way of a tsunami. That's all. But every time he got hit with one, Reed would go back out to the top, and they keep going like this. No, don't do it. And then they get out of the way as he tsunami and tsunami and tsunami. 6 tsunamis onto Seth Rollins, absolutely murdering the man. And I thought it was really, really great. Now, under normal circumstances, you see a segment like this, what would that tell you? What kind of red flags or bells would go off in your head? This dude's being written off TV. I mean, he took a worse beating than Ricochet did, and Ricochet's gone. So if Seth wasn't such a top guy, I'd be wondering if he's leaving the company. Now, we know he's not. I believe Seth Rollins and his wife, Becky Lynch, will be WWE for life. But that is kind of interesting there, and it makes me wonder, makes me speculate. I'm curious what our friends at Fightful Select will have to say about this tomorrow. Is Rollins got a paid vacation coming up? Did he request some time off for Rue's birthday or to renew their wedding vows in Costa Rica or something? Like, what's going on with Seth? It makes me wonder if Becky could be on the verge of coming back. And this is his last chance to take a little time off with his wife and be with his family before him and Mama both hit the road full time again. They had the Becky Lynch Annie bio last night. We know, even though Becky Lynch is technically not under contract, or we haven't heard of her resigning as of this moment, nobody is thinking that Becky Lynch is going to turn up in AEW. That's just not going to happen. She's coming back to WWE. So I don't know, just baseless speculation. I have no evidence to go on here. I'm just guessing. Maybe Rollins is going to take a couple of weeks off, or maybe he's going to be off TV until after the Bash, because there's no way that Rollins can be on Raw next week. I mean, even if they did the thing where Rollins is out there hobbling out there with like taped ribs, I still feel like if the point of this was to create a monster in Bronson Reed, then Seth absolutely should be off at least another week selling the injuries. So maybe he had some time off that he had previously asked for, and he's getting it here. But either way, I don't think we're going to see Seth back on TV at least next week. So maybe he's back in time to make the match against Reed for Bash in Berlin, or Seth takes some time off, maybe the rest of the month, every week on TV, Reed's killing people. And then when Rollins comes back, you set their program in motion. Maybe for Bad Blood coming up in October. Not really sure. All I know for sure is I loved this segment that started with Punk, and then Seth came out, then Drew showed up in the crowd. Punk runs off, leaving Seth alone, gets attacked by Bronson. We got a brand new monster made here that we did not see coming. So that's the second surprise now on the show. I did not see Randy Orton coming out to confront Gunther and challenge him for Berlin, and I didn't see this. I like it when I don't see stuff. Hi, buddy. Here's Tito. Watch him. He's going to show up in the corner. Go, buddy. There he goes. He just jumped off the table here. There he is. We got the man in the corner there, eyeballing things. So this was 2 really, really nice surprises so far on the show. And they were going to hit us with another one in the very next segment. So then after that, we have an issue and an angle on Raw that I don't give a gluten-free fuck about. The New Testament and the New Day. I keep calling them the New Testament. The Old Testament and the New Day. So now it's another one of these matches. It's going to be AOP taking on Kofi and Xavier. They're coming out there in like some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed gear, because I guess there's like an action figure crossover or something going on between the two companies, or the two action figures or something. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's the closest thing to the Toxic Turtles we're ever going to see again. So New Day had their kind of special gear out there, and they're taking on the AOP. And of course, Karrion Kross and Scarlett are out there. Xavier Woods climbs to the top rope, and Kross pushes him off the top, so Woods takes a spill. And that's when, from behind in the aisleway, the gigantic Odyssey Jones from NXT shows up, takes out Kross in the aisleway there. That allows Xavier to roll up Razor for the win and get the win for the New Day. And then Odyssey Jones gets in the ring, and he's got both AOP members. This is the damnedest thing I've ever seen. And he's got both AOP members, and he lifts them both up and hits a double sidewalk slam on both members of the AOP. He's not picking up Spike Dudley and Marco Stunt. He's picking up the AOP, one in each fucking hand, and he double sidewalk slams these bitches down. Holy shit. Now, I don't know much about Odyssey Jones. I did read that he might have had some unsavory things to say in the past. We'll worry about that another day. But in terms of physically how he looks, I've seen a couple of, clips and matches of him in NXT, but don't know a ton about him other than he's just fucking huge and extremely obscenely strong. I don't know how he fits into the New Day. I'm not really sure if he's there to be a member of the New Day. I feel like he doesn't totally fit for some reason, but he might be. Shit, who knows? I'm not really sure, but just the way he was brought out there, the fact that they did these two segments back to back is pretty impressive because the fans were still reeling from what Reed had just done. You would think two segments like this, you'd spread them out a little bit. They hit us with these two segments back to back, and they were both tremendous. That double sidewalk slam, I'm never going to forget that shit as long as I live. So great. So the baby faces, kind of stand tall there, but I think we go to commercial and we come back, and New Day is backstage with Odyssey Jones, and Xavier still is a little weird. He says something like, I didn't even know you guys were friends or knew each other. And Kofi's like, oh yeah, man, when I was down in NXT, got to hang with this cat a little bit or whatever. And then Xavier didn't seem like annoyed about it because then Maxine and Tozawa and Otis showed up and they all started dancing together. But that little moment where Woods was like, I didn't even know you guys knew each other. He's like, oh man. And he's like, kind of like that. Oh, okay. I guess that's what we're doing. Little thing is still a little tease that this bullshit still isn't over. And I've been speculating for the past month if they're actually going to maybe do something different with Xavier Woods. I mean, Big E, he's been giving us health updates on his neck. Just doesn't seem like him being back in the ring and being a full-fledged member of the New Day is something that we're going to see anytime in the near future. So do you want these two guys to continue to tread water and just do the same shit they've been doing, even though everybody loves the New Day? New Day is going to go down top 5 tag team of all time probably for me when it's all said and done. And I love them. But the last couple of years, it feels like they've literally done nothing. And you would think that, if you're a professional wrestler, you might have, more creative desires than that. So Xavier Woods being like, you want to do something with me? Like I'd be into turning heel or something. You want to do something? I'm here. Hello. Maybe that's what they're doing here because they've been giving us little subtle teases with Woods that eventually he might turn on Kofi. But I feel like this isn't even an A or a B story. It's a C story. So I feel like the New Day having some sort of a breakup or some shocking thing breaking up the New Day should be a way bigger deal than what they're making it here. Right now, this is the backstage Tozawa and Otis segment. Is that what we want? If you're actually really going to do an Xavier split, because I think Xavier trying to play the role of like a dark, demented, crazy person would be fun. He's all into video games and comic books and all that shit, right? He probably could draw a lot of inspiration from that to be in a character like that. Granted, like I feel like Final Testament and Judgment Day are kind of a little similar, but I pitched a couple of weeks ago if they wanted to take Xavier Woods in a different creative direction, have him go a little bit nuts, maybe wear some dark goth makeup and just have a completely different attitude. And he embraces the crazy so much that maybe he becomes a little bit too unpredictable for the faction, to where he's too much for the New Testament. They're a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more methodical, and they've got this wild card that's just batshit nuts, and they don't know how to manage him. I'd do something like that, but we'll have to see. We will have to see. I still feel like that whole situation with Xavier is not completely done yet. That's a good question, Zane G. I know I got some super chats we're going to hit here. I'm just trying to roll through some of these results, but we'll knock out these supers in just a moment. Oh yeah, Tito's very tired over here right now. After the New Day and Testament stuff, it was time for Damian Priest taking on JD McDonough. So we got Big Head here taking on Damian Priest. I am surprised this match went as long as it did. I was kind of thinking we need just a straight up squash here. I'm thinking more along the lines of Diesel versus Owen Hart at In Your House in December, right after Diesel lost the title, where he just fucks Owen up. I think he actually lost that match via DQ, but something similar to that would be good here. But Priest definitely was angry. He was taking a lot of his frustrations out on JD, but JD did have some offense in this match. He had a lot of offense during the commercial break. And finally, when Priest gets his act together, he's about to put away old Big Head here. And that's when, predictably, Finn Balor interferes, hits the ring, and all of Judgment Day follows him. So Morgan, Dom, Balor, Carlito, they all hit the ring. They swarm Damian Priest. And then Priest starts fighting off some guys. He fights off Dominic. He fights off JD. And he finally gets his hands on Finn Balor, and I think he's going to lift him up in Razor's Edge or something. And that's when Liv Morgan, who's still in the ring, grabs Balor's foot, saves Balor from Priest, and then Dom comes in from behind and chops out Priest's legs. He goes down, and that's when I'm like, all right, come on, Rhea. I mean, it's Dominic and Liv putting the boots to Priest. I mean, come on. And then sure enough, finally, Rhea Ripley's music hits. She comes sprinting to the ring. Now, Dominic and Liv try to get out of Dodge. They leave the ring. They're about to run through the crowd, but Rhea catches up with them, and she actually gets her hands on Liv Morgan. I thought for sure Dominic and Liv would get away and that Rhea wouldn't actually be able to get her hands on Liv Morgan, but she did. She grabs her, she posts her twice, throws her right into the ring post, then throws her into the ring post again, and then she's about to power bomb Liv onto the table. Dom shows back up, saves Liv, and they run away. I think it was going to be a Razor's Edge she was going to hit Liv with on the table, and Dominic saves her. And then back in the ring, we have JD McDonough still in there. He gets hit with the South of Heaven, and Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest stand tall together as they are now both out of the Judgment Day, but still aligned together, and we'll see how long their kind of alliance lasts. Right now, they're both in a feud against the Judgment Day members, but when that's done, is Ripley and Priest going to kind of go their separate ways? Or are they going to create their own new faction? I don't know what they're going to do, but it was cool to see Priest and Ripley kind of standing there together as, babyface is full blown now, and that's pretty awesome. So I like Priest. I like his demeanor right now. I like that he's just red-faced furious, wants to get his hands on Finn Balor, and that's going to be pretty good. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get all three of those matches at Bash in Berlin, but we know we're going to get Gunther and Orton. We might get Rollins and Reed, and possibly Priest and Balor as well. We will have to see. And at some point, we're going to get Mommy and Liv Morgan for the title. Maybe even Mommy against Liv Morgan and Dominic in a handicap match, or a mixed tag. That's what we need to do. Maybe Priest and Rhea against Liv and Dom. Some sort of mixed tag match. That could be fun. That actually could be fun. We'll see what happens there. After that, we go backstage and we see Dakota Kai get attacked by Sonya, Shayna, and Zoe Stark. Now, Dakota Kai is supposed to have a one-on-one match against Sonya Deville, but she gets taken out here. So I'm like, why did they take her out? I hope Dakota is not injured. Hopefully she's okay. Hopefully there's no injury to worry about there, but it is weird why they would just knock her out of the match and replace her with somebody else. So then they go to the ring. It's supposed to be Sonya Deville against Dakota Kai, but Dakota Kai is replaced with Io Sky. So it's Sonya versus Io Sky. We had a really great spot where Io and Kairi Sane were both on the top rope. Io hit her moonsault. Kairi hit her insane elbow to the floor on, I believe, Zoe and Shayna. And then Io Sky hit the moonsault in the ring on Sonya Deville for the win. I didn't realize how... I didn't really realize how not good in the ring Sonya was. I always thought she was all right, but this match was ugly. Just ugly. Hopefully she gets better there. And I don't know if maybe backstage they thought that Sonya and Io Sky would be a better match in the ring than Sonya Deville and Dakota. Hopefully that's the reason why they did the change, and Dakota doesn't have any sort of injury here that we don't know about, but we'll keep our eye on that. If anybody has any news on that, or if you read any news anywhere today, let me know. And that left us with the main event of tonight's Raw. This was going to be a tag team match, 6-man match. The Wyatt Six taking on Chad Gable and the Creeds. As the Creeds and Gable are making their way to the ring, Gable is cutting a promo to the camera, and he says that they are all American made. So it sounds like that is going to be the name for this crew, American made. I think they should use Hogan's American Made. He's American Made. It's a shitty song from WCW. Or American Males. American Males. American Males. So that they're going to be called American Made. I'm fine with that. Whatever. I knew they would have some sort of new faction name for the three of those guys. American Made is no dumber than Team Angle, I guess. So I'm fine, I guess, with American Made. And this was going to be our first real look at the Wyatt Six in the ring. And when they made their entrance, it was great to hear the song. Now help me out. I feel like we haven't heard Bray Wyatt's song. Every time the Wyatts have come out, we've just heard the piano part of the song, but it's the full Bray Wyatt song that they're using here, which I love just hearing that again. And the 6-man was Gable and the Creeds against Loomis, Rowan, and Gacy. So the announcers too, they're not calling these guys by their character names, or I guess by their funhouse names, like Mercy the Buzzard, because on commentary Cole was like, Loomis thinks he's Mercy the Buzzard, and of course we got Nikki Cross out there as Abby the Witch and whatnot. So they're referring to them as Rowan and Loomis and Gacy throughout the match, which I did like. I didn't really hate the match. It was good to see these guys kind of in the ring again, especially Dexter Loomis, who has changed up his look a lot. He's got the face paint now. He's got the long dreadlocks, and he was involved in the finish. He actually hit a top rope splash to Chad Gable for the win, and that's something we weren't seeing a lot of Dexter Loomis, seeing a lot of out of Dexter Loomis when he was in the ring, because that character was just so stone cold and so direct. He wasn't jumping off ropes and shit a whole lot. He was just kind of one speed, one direction, one facial expression, the whole thing. So seeing this version of him is just really cool. And they pinned Gable for the win here. So the Wyatt Six got the win. Uncle Howdy, of course, is out there too. He's laughing big, and the whole faction poses after the match with the song playing. I like it. I'm okay with it. So far, this is all fine to me. We've all been worried about, what a gimmick like this can mean for in-the-ring stuff. And so far, it's not like too stupid for me to handle or anything. And what I really need is I need a backstage segment where Indy Hartwell is just kind of casually walking through the backstage area and she stumbles across Dexter in his dreads. That would be awesome if they would do something like that. I think Indy is on SmackDown right now, right? But they should try to acknowledge that history between those guys, or those two, at some point. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that was pretty much Raw in a nutshell, but we're going to backtrack now and elaborate more on this, and I'll answer all of these super chats that you guys have here, and then I will talk a little bit about that wrestling news I alluded to, and a lot of it is AEW related with the Lucha Bros and MJF and Britt Baker. We'll get into a little bit of that as well. Oh, Tribal Chief has got a last man standing between Seth and Bronson. That could definitely work. All right, let's get some super chats done. Good to see my boy Zach in here. Thank you so much for the $5, dude. Gotta love Hunter bringing back the wild card rule to have Randy challenge Gunther in Berlin. I'm hoping it's not the wild card rule. I'm hoping that it's an agreement between Pierce and Aldis. and we'll learn the full details of that agreement by Friday on SmackDown. That's what I'm hoping anyway. The Juliet, thank you for the $10, and you retracted your message, so I have no idea what you said there, but thank you for that. Young South Wavy Network, $2 from you. Can you guys check out my music? Right on. Go to South Wavy. Check out some good tunes over there. There's another $10 super from the Juliet. Maybe this is what you said earlier, so thank you for the dose 10s there. Triple H promised Orton a rematch against Gunther. That's right. That's right, he did. Makes sense that Orton would pick when Gunther became champ to go for that match. Also accidentally deleted my last super chat. Okay, so you just answered it. So that is right. I do remember now, after the King of the Ring, Triple H did say that Randy Orton would get a rematch against Gunther, but he just said a rematch against Gunther. Orton waiting until he became champion is actually kind of fun. So I like that. Good point there, the Juliet. So maybe Orton's involvement on Raw is just an executive decision made by Triple H, and SmackDown isn't going to have to be compensated for Orton's loss unless Orton wins the championship, right? So really, Orton's just going to be on loan to Raw because he's not going to beat Gunther. But let's say he did, then you would think they would have to be compensated with another piece of talent. But I also think, trading him, even if he doesn't beat Gunther, trading him and Kevin Owens to Raw would work anyway, because then you could get Jey Uso and Sammy back to SmackDown to set up the bloodline stuff. So we'll see if they do that on TV. I'm not sure how they're going to explain or how they're going to move forward with Randy Orton being on Raw. I feel like if he's there, he should be there permanently. There's really nothing left for him to do on SmackDown at the moment. So moving Orton and Owens to Raw could be a good move. Chris Ludek is back. What's up, dude? Appreciate the $5. I think it was a subtle shot at Hangman. And to be honest, Seth is looking like me, where we both need to start counting calories and hitting the stair mat. What are you saying? Seth's a little fat? No way. Seth's in good shape. But, Seth's getting older too, so he's not the specimen maybe he once was, but that just happens with age. It feels like it was just such a stark contrast to how Rollins dresses. So when he came out there wearing that, and Punk even calling him a cowboy, I'm like, is there something? Should I be reading between any lines here? Feels like we should be. Zane G, 5 from you. Thanks for that. What beating was gnarly? 6 tsunamis from Reed, or all the beatings from Lesnar with 5 or 6 F5s to Seth Rollins? That's right. I don't know. I kind of feel like the tsunami is worse because you're literally being smashed. And Rollins even had a little blood in his mouth. I don't know if it was a blood packet or if they're trying to make like internal bleeding, but you would feel like the damage to you would be worse and more life-threatening in tsunamis than F5s. F5s, all that's going to do is just break some limbs. Live through that. A tsunami, you could be straight up smushed. And of all the ways there are to die, being smushed is like way down on my list. I do not want to die that way. No. Let me see. Mike Witt, what's up, dude? Appreciate the $2 from you. So are we saving Gunther versus Dragunov for the Rumble? Yeah, Dragunov, got to remember too, he hasn't even been on Raw very long, and now Gunther is the world champion, so Dragunov will probably need to be built up to get to a title shot. I don't know if Gunther and Dragunov is what you would do at the Rumble. It might be. You could do it at Survivor Series. You could do it if they have a December pay-per-view. Hopefully they won't. But really, we only have, think about it, until the Royal Rumble, I think we only have 3 pay-per-views. We're going to have Bash, then we're going to have Bad Blood. Then we're going to have Survivor Series. But I'm pretty sure last year there was not a December show. And I don't think there should be. So they might do another day one or something. But yeah, there's probably only 3 PPVs until it's January. It's still summertime right now. 5 more bucks for Juliet. The second part of my deleted super chat after Bash. Then you start to move towards Cody and Orton. Yes, so that's why Randy Orton being permanently traded to Raw might not happen, because they could pick up the Cody stuff. But I'm starting to think that maybe Cody and Orton, there's just really not room to get any of that done this year. That's going to have to be a next year type of thing. And I guess that would mean that there is a really good likelihood of Gunther and Randy Orton being a one-off at Bash at Berlin. I mean, Gunther did beat him at King of the Ring, albeit there's an asterisk by that, but now they're having the rematch. So if Gunther beats him straight up, you don't do anything in the match that would leave the door open for a rematch, then it actually might be just a one-off and a really, really special main event for those fans in Berlin to get to see that for the championship. And then if Orton loses, I don't know how he goes just back to SmackDown then. You know, then you might stick him in a number one contenders match or something for Cody's title, which he wins. And then maybe at Bad Blood, it's Cody and Randy Orton. You don't have to put them in a cell or anything. It can just be Cody and Randy Orton at Bad Blood. I guess Cody's going to have to face somebody at Bad Blood. And don't forget, Roman Reigns is back, and he's going to be on SmackDown this Friday. So we'll get a better idea of what they're trying to do here. And if Roman, because Roman might say, I want a shot at you, Cody. I'm cool with you right now. I saved you at SummerSlam, and I have no, real issue, but I do want a chance to get my belt back, and maybe it's Cody and Roman in Berlin. They're not going to do that, but maybe it's Cody and Roman real soon. Maybe they do it like in the next couple of pay-per-views, and then the Bloodline helps Cody win or something. I don't know. It's there's a lot to kind of think about and to speculate on, and that's what's fun when you have all of your top stories and you can visualize 3 or 4 different creative paths each story could take. That's the sign of a healthy business. It's good stuff. Free agents are kind of like that too. It's the sign of a healthy business. And I like that. I like not being able to see everything that's coming. Granted, WWE can still be plenty predictable at times. I like that I don't have any, sort of definitive predictions in terms of, they're definitely going to do this, they're definitely going to do that. I don't really know what they're going to do. And that's a good thing. Good to see the new one up in here. Thanks for the $5, Vontae. Always happy to see you. What's up, y'all? I was at Raw tonight. I was in the same section I was in when the Wyatt family debuted in Baltimore over 10 years ago. Well, that's special. You got any pictures of tonight and that show? You should do a side-by-side thing or something. That's really cool. That's special. That's special stuff. The Wyatt debuting, I would love to be able to say I was in the building the night that Bray Wyatt debuted in the company, or at least on the main roster. And then all these years later, 11 years later, coming around full circle, and Bray Wyatt, of course, is no longer with us. He's passed away. His brother has taken over the reins in this new faction, and they made their in-ring debut tonight in the very same building, in the very same city, and you sat in the very same section. That's cool. I like stories like that. Keep those coming, y'all. Always good to see you, Vontae. Superman Bass Fisher is here. Appreciate the $5 Canadian. Seth needs to stop dressing up in Becky's clothes. It's getting weird. I kind of like it. The crazier Seth gets with his outfit, the more I like it, and I think that it's pretty smart financial decision. When you can share a closet with your wife, y'all can just wear each other's shit. That makes it easier, So Seth Rollins, I like that sometimes he's coming out there looking like a woman who wants water with her, or lemon with her water, and then other nights he's coming out there looking like a leather cowboy. Seth is a trip. No Jey Uso tonight either, Mike Witt. Jey Uso was backstage with Sammy. I did not write down that segment, but there was a backstage segment with Jey Uso basically trying to give Sami Zayn a little bit of a pep talk. And Sammy, I should note this, Sammy did say that he secured himself an Intercontinental Championship rematch next week against Braun Breaker. So if they are going to move Sammy to SmackDown, you probably want to wrap up all of his business nice and tight with Breaker before he does that. So we'll have another match with him next week, probably lose. And after that, who knows? After that, maybe they can find a way to get him to SmackDown. But at the same time, it's August right now. So I would be perfectly fine with Sami Zayn remaining on Raw for a while, because if they're going to set up something for Survivor Series in Vancouver and it's going to be the War Games, the Bloodline Civil War and the War Games, you got plenty of time. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso don't need to be traded to SmackDown on Friday. You can wait a month or two before you do this. But you might not want to wait that long, because Roman Reigns also, as we know right now, is undrafted. He is not signed anywhere. So I'm not sure if when he gets to SmackDown, if Aldis is going to try to sign him. Is it going to be like that, how they were trying to do with Jade Cargill, like where Pierce and Aldis are both going to try to sign Roman Reigns? Or if it's just going to be understood that he's back on SmackDown, or if him being pulled from the draft allows him the freedom to go to Raw on a recruiting mission to where he can try to convince Sammy or Jay to rejoin the group. We still have to bring Jimmy back. So there's a lot to do, and there's no rush in doing it. Today is August 5th. Wherever you're living in the country, it's probably hot as balls right now. None of this Survivor Series Civil War shit's going to happen until it's butt cold in your city. So we got a long time. We got all of August, all of September, all of October, and most of November. So you're talking 3.5-ish months or more before we actually get to this match. So there's no rush getting the pieces in place yet in August. You can slowly start, it's like a game of chess. You can slowly start positioning your pieces and getting your soldiers ready where you want them to be, to where, you can make those final steps when necessary. So I feel like Sammy and Jay should stay on Raw for a little while longer. And at some point, it would be great to see Roman Reigns advertised for Raw, where he comes out and, I don't know, does something, or if he shows up and tries to recruit Sammy or Jay. Right now, they are still on very good terms with each other. So that would be pretty easy. And you got to factor in Jimmy somewhere in here. And Jimmy and Jay, Sammy and Jay are already on the same page. So whenever Jimmy turns back up, Jimmy and Jay need to work out their shit too. There's a lot to do before Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, and Heyman are all on the same page. You can't just do all this in 1 week. So I feel like just bide your time. Roman will be on SmackDown this week, then maybe off TV for a couple weeks, and he'll be back. Maybe he shows up on Raw after Bash at Berlin. I don't know what the order is going to be here. Plus, he's going to probably have some sort of, I hope on SmackDown, Roman has some sort of in-ring interaction with Cody. That's going to be fun. And we'll find out there probably if they're going to be going right to Cody and Roman right now, or if it's going to be more Roman and Solo. I don't even fucking know, man. I don't know. It just depends on what Roman's schedule is going to be like, too. I don't think he's going to be coming back now and just being full-time on every SmackDown, working every pay-per-view. I think Roman's coming back to be the Roman who he was and work the schedule that he worked before, which is not very much. So we'll see how often we see him after Friday. Maybe the Bloodline attacks him. Maybe they get some revenge on him. That could very well happen. Jacob Fatu, unfortunately, is in a walking boot, so we'll have to monitor that situation to see if the Bloodline needs to forfeit the titles or if they just freebird it. Luckily, the tag team titles being in the Bloodline probably keeps them safe there, and they're not going to have to forfeit because of Jacob's injury. They can just freebird rule it, or Solo can fill in for him. And Solo is now one half of the tag team champions. That's my guess anyway. Or if it's just the Tongans are the tag champs. I don't really know how that's going to work yet, if Jacob Fatu is going to be out for any extended period of time. But also on SmackDown, they might have a beatdown segment planned, maybe with Cody and Roman in the ring, having some words, but there's a respect there, and then they both get attacked by all of the Bloodline members. We could see something like that on Friday Night SmackDown. So still a little too early to tell exactly what they're going to do yet, but you definitely see some potential for a lot of fun this fall. And of course, heading into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania time, I think it's going to be a hoot. Good point, Juliet. Thank you for the $2. There is a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view in November. I mean, shit, that could be where you do Cody and Roman again, or Roman and Solo. Yeah, the Saudi PLE is a big one. Part of me wonders if you do Roman and Solo there, and maybe you have Solo beat Roman, and then you do the War Games, and the good Bloodline wins. The OG Bloodline wins. I don't know. Saudi PLE coming up in November. That's going to be in the way, and that's probably going to come like 2 weeks before Survivor Series. It's going to be all in the way. Those things are a fucking speed bump in our nice, smooth, creative road. I fucking hate those shows, but we're going to have to do it again in Saudi Arabia in November. Hey, Joe Shepis, excuse me. You are a channel member now, courtesy of Superman Bass Fisher. Always cool to see y'all hooking each other up with memberships and stuff. I love the community here. So much fun. All right, so that kind of does it for the Raw chatter at the moment, but I want to acknowledge a couple of other news stories as well. Oh, I also want to say hi to FRGN. Good to see you. Fun Raw. Papa H building new stars. You love to see it. You do love to see it. Again, I can't say enough good things about tonight's Monday Night Raw. This is, I used to really enjoy watching wrestling on Monday nights, and then I went about 12 years there where I fucking hated it, and now it's nice again, and it's just really kind of cool to, you know, watch these Raws that are actually enjoyable, and things happen, and surprises happen, and tonight was no shortage of any of that. But there's also some news in AEW land and WWE land. It should be noted, and we should mention it because I haven't mentioned it yet, that the Hardy Boys reportedly met with WWE officials, I believe, on Friday in Cleveland. So there is some talk now about the Hardy Boys maybe coming back. They are finished up with AEW, and I know Matt Hardy has turned back up in TNA. And Jeff Hardy, of course, he was in WWE a couple years ago, and he had some weird behavior at a live event where he just left the ring and walked through the crowd and left the building. They fired him. And it still makes me wonder if he just did that on purpose. I just want out. I'm literally going to walk out of the company. So they fired him, thinking that he was, you know, had relapsed back in his substance abuse problems or something, and he didn't. And they let him go anyway. And then he was like, cool, I'll just go to AEW. And that's when WWE was like, oh, wait a minute, we shouldn't have fired you. And they offered him a chance to come back and dangled a Hall of Fame induction over his head to try to convince him. And he was like, no, fuck you, I'm going to AEW. So that was great. The problem is the Hardy Boys run in AEW was mostly shit because of Jeff Hardy, because he fucked up again and got himself yet another DUI and driving with a revoked license and all the other stupid shit that he constantly does. He had it happen to him again, put him on the shelf for a year there, came back. And, you know, now we've seen the Hardys, you know, I grew up in the same neighborhood or the same area as them, and I've seen them, you know, come up through the business ever since they were jobbers, and I've loved following the Hardy Boys story over the years. I'm a big fan of both those guys. I've met their dad. I've been, you know, to Fayetteville a bunch of times, seeing shows there. I was in the building the night they won their first ever WWE Tag Team Championships, and it was really cool a couple of years ago to be in Vegas for Double or Nothing to watch the Hardys take on the Bucks on pay-per-view in a match that was actually really good. So I've loved some of these, you know, full circle moments. And when the Hardys got to AEW, I was happy initially, but once Jeff got in trouble, I feel like that was the last straw. I mean, Jeff he's got more lives than a cat, and he's had more chances than anybody else should deserve to have. And I think that one was finally when I was like, you know, I just don't care anymore. You know, I'm tired of getting excited about the Hardys, and Jeff just can't get out of his own way. But, you know, Jeff is such a big star. He's so marketable. He's so, he appeals to such a wide audience. It's given him special treatment to where companies and WWE gives him chance after chance after chance because they can make money off of him. And he's just never really been able to get his shit together for any extended period of time. But now, you know, the Hardys, the last couple of times we were seeing them in the ring in AEW, it's really tough to watch. They are so past their prime. They aren't holding it together the way Copeland and Christian are. They, unfortunately, are just beyond what they can do physically in the ring, in my opinion. And as a fan watching them, it kind of hurts me to watch them in the ring now. So if they come back to WWE, I can't see realistically how they would have any sort of a real run. I mean, if they try to actually give them a run, you know how painful that is going to be to watch them go through their same old moves or twist of fates and their whispers in the winds and their swantons, but now in a much slower, you know, I'm 25 years older way. You know, stick them in the ring for an attraction here or there. Sure, let's have a Hardys match on a pay-per-view one time. Stick them in a ladder match for fun. Maybe they can make some NXT pop-ins, work with some of the younger teams there, and tie in a nice Hall of Fame induction for both of them, and I'm fine. But anything beyond that, I don't know how you can realistically expect anything out of the Hardy Boys. It's just age. I mean, they wrestled a crazy, crazy style, especially Jeff. The fact that Jeff can even walk is crazy to me, much less still be able to execute top rope moves and stuff. So if the company wants to bring in the Hardy Boys, I just need some sort of a relatively satisfying closure on the team. I don't need a Ric Flair 2008 send-off or anything like that. I would like to see the Hardy Boys come back, have one more small little nostalgia run or short run or, a handful of appearances, along with a Hall of Fame induction and some sort of a nice final match or send-off. If they can do that, then I will be satisfied with the career of the Hardy Boys. But I don't really need anything else other than that. So I feel like if they met with WWE officials, they probably will come back in and maybe close out their career. But I hope they're not trying to sign like a multi-year deal to be in the ring. They're not going to hold up. Their bodies aren't going to hold up. So if the Hardy Boys are coming in, I think it's to do a final run. Maybe the Hardy Boys and John Cena all wrap up business, next year. And then the Hardys stick around for a Legends contract or kickoff panel appearances, things like that, where they're kind of in the WWE family and fold, just like Big E is, just like John Bradshaw Layfield is, or guys like that, where you kind of frequently see them, but they're not on TV every week. That's what I would look for with the Hardys if they do sign yet another deal with the company. I mean, back in 2017, that was 7 years ago when they showed back up at WrestleMania and one of the greatest returns and pops of all time. I kind of thought physically they might be done and beyond what they can do then. Now it's 2024 and it could be 2025 by the time we see them again. So I don't know. I'd love to see the Hardys come back and have a nice send off, but at the same time, I have my worries. Also, speaking of tag teams, it was reported today by our friend Ibu of WrestlePurist. It was funny. Ibu sent me a DM a few days ago. I had tweeted out, it was the night of the taped SmackDown. I tweeted, I was SmackDown tonight because I was working. And he was so nice to actually DM me kind of a synopsis of the show, what I missed. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it like a day and a half later. I'm like, fuck, he wrote me this whole nice thing. But anyway, he had reported today that the Lucha Brothers are going to be leaving AEW when their contracts are up. Not really sure when they're up other than soon. I've heard soon. Soon could be 6 months. Soon could be 6 weeks. Don't really know. But their contracts are up soon, and they are expected to not only leave AEW, but join WWE. Now, we had talked about this a week ago when it was rumored that Rey Fénix's contract was coming up. And one thing I did wonder is that if they went to WWE, I think they would look great there. But, at the same time, WWE, even though we've seen a lot of nice production changes and a few, a nice breath of fresh air since Kevin Dunn left, there still is a very formulaic nature to what they do. And I feel like Lucha Brothers are a tag team that would be in a lot of nothing tags. And unfortunately, when you get a lot of, tag teams, a lot of times you just have nothing tags. You just have matches for the sake of matches. And I didn't want to see them get into that rut. But they also might be looking for exposure, WrestleMania matches, making some big money, coming to the big time. It just depends on what everybody's personal ambitions and professional ambitions are. Maybe it's money, maybe it's exposure, maybe it's light schedule. Who knows? So if the Lucha Bros are leaving and coming to WWE, great. I just worry that I feel like there's a better chance of WWE allowing crossovers to happen now than more than ever with Triple H, because we've seen that. But I don't know if they would have the absolute freedom to work as frequently in Mexico as they do now if they signed with WWE. So I feel like if they came to WWE, there might be some stuff in Mexico they could do occasionally. Obviously, they're going to be a big part of WWE's live events in Mexico, but they might be more permanently in WWE on that travel schedule if they sign. And if that's what they do, I think that's great. I think both guys have attempted to trademark their names maybe, and if they came into the WWE, hopefully they would be allowed to be the Lucha Brothers. And Penta and Fénix would keep their auras and their personalities and their characters intact. And that's interesting. So we'll keep our eye on it. If that ends up happening and they do in fact leave AEW and join WWE, that's going to be a really awesome addition to the tag team scene. I mean, I for some reason, I don't know why, but I envision them on SmackDown more than Raw. And so I'm like, holy shit, give me Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu against the Lucha Brothers for the titles. Hell yeah. Could be fun. Speaking of AEW, we had some drama as well in AEW that we learned about this week. Britt Baker reportedly got suspended from AEW due to a confrontation she had with MJF at the 250th episode of Dynamite. That would have been the show where Ospreay and MJF wrestled their hour-long match. Now, apparently what happened is that Britt Baker was in the women's locker room complaining about MJF. Alicia Atu, who just started working with AEW recently, and as we know is MJF's current girlfriend, she was there in the room, heard what Britt Baker said, went and stooged her off to her boyfriend, and Max heard about it, and then he went to confront Britt Baker about it, and apparently knocked on the women's dressing room door, and there's conflicting reports on whether or not he entered or didn't enter the room, but it sounds like whatever he did, he knocked, and it wasn't really a big issue, and he confronted Britt, and there was some sort of a conversation or confrontation there, which wound up leading to AEW launching an internal investigation into a conversation. They launched an investigation, and after their investigation was over and they had spoken to the eyewitnesses and people who were there, it was determined that Britt Baker should be suspended, which she was. She was suspended for a couple of weeks or is suspended for a couple of weeks. I think it's over now because she's in the middle of building her match with Mercedes Moné at All In, which is still on. It's not been scrapped or anything, so that's still going to happen. And Britt Baker did have to serve a little bit of a suspension that the disciplinary committee handed down to her because of this. Now, apparently, Britt Baker and MJF were always friends, and they had a falling out within the last year or so. Don't really know why. Sounds like Max isn't the most favorite person backstage. He does have a reputation. Some people like him, some people don't. But in AEW, it's things like this that we constantly hear about. And the fact that you're like launching investigations into something as small and childish and elementary as this is wild. It's not the JFK assassination. It's not Rikishi running over Austin. It's just a small confrontation that happened in your locker room that probably happens across all wrestling locker rooms every day in the wrestling world. And it's a shame that MJF and Britt had that falling out. And whatever the confrontation was or the conversation, it was heated enough to actually land Britt in trouble and not MJF. Britt was the one that suffered the suspension here. So maybe it's just the shit talking or the unprofessionalism. I really don't know what, but it's sad to see AEW and their locker room have got to get their shit together with this. And I know, with MJF, there's a lot of animosity and bad blood due to the amount of TV time he gets. We saw the same thing in WWE. Who was it? Sheamus and who else? There's been a couple of people on the main roster, currently active wrestlers in WWE, who have been on record saying that they're annoyed by how much TV time Roman Reigns takes up. And so this is not going to be ever a new thing. I think every wrestling company, even when things are going really, really well morale-wise backstage, every wrestling company is going to have jealousy and animosity and wrestlers seeing others have TV time and they wonder why they don't have that. That's the way it is all over the place, and that's the way it certainly is on social media a lot too. And, people always, wanting what they can't have or jealous of somebody else or feeling like they should be in that spot and they don't deserve it. Things like that. That's just a natural thing. And it's definitely pretty common in pro wrestling. So MJF, I know when you already have a locker room full of talent at AEW that is already struggling to get TV time because TV time is really kind of all over the place in that company. Sometimes you're getting it a lot, sometimes you're not getting it at all. And TV time is very precious. There's not a lot of it to go around. Talent sits on their ass for weeks at a time without being used. And Baker, I guess, was expressing some displeasure with that, but she's always been one to have plenty of TV time throughout her career as well. I believe she probably feels like she's AEW's queen in the locker room, but that locker room has been beefed up a lot since AEW was founded, and she might not be the top dog in there anymore, especially when you have Tony Storm and others doing such great work there. Mercedes Moné is there now, so there's probably, more jealousy, more animosity. I've met Britt Baker. She is the nicest and sweetest woman I've ever fucking met, so I don't know why she's starting to get this reputation of kind of being a pain in the ass backstage, or definitely maybe having an attitude. I'm assuming everything is okay with her and Adam Cole. The two of them seem to have a strong relationship, but you don't hear about these things with Adam Cole. He's a relatively well-liked guy, super nice guy, doesn't get involved in too much drama. You never hear about backstage stories or incidents or confrontations involving him. So Britt making a lot of noise here is kind of interesting, and it's just more of the same in AEW. Now, I'm glad they have a disciplinary committee, but it doesn't seem like it's really helping to stop these situations. Whoever's heading up the committee, I know Danielson is a part of this, but it doesn't seem like anybody in the locker room is scared of anybody there. It feels like they're just still going to say and do whatever they want. And, a lot of them run their mouths. Now, MJF has been interesting on Twitter as well. A couple days after this, or a couple days ago, before his show in Mexico, I think he worked a CMLL show where he had the American Championship, right? And he tweeted something like, everybody's talking about the American Championship being defended in Mexico. And Ricky Starks replies to the tweet saying, I think everybody's talking about you and Britt, to be honest. And that was pretty wild. I'm like, oh man, there's, Ricky Starks also had some issues. He's been vocal about that as well. And you can kind of see with some of the AEW talent who doesn't like each other. A lot of them too, we've seen back when likes were still public, you could see some of the tweets that some of the talent was liking, and a lot of it was negative on MJF and things like that. So MJF, it feels like, he is not the most favorite or well-liked person in the locker room. Now he's getting his girlfriend jobs there and stuff. And so I think that's rubbing the talent the wrong way, and it's just making a lot of childish, stupid problems backstage that really should not be issues when you got these people making big time money. These are professionals. A lot of these people are millionaires. Tony Khan is paying them all very well. All you have to do is not act like you're in 10th fucking grade, and it's just crazy to me that these situations are even allowed to become distractions. And there's always distractions like this in AEW. It's never ending. And MJF also had another tweet that was pretty interesting. I don't even know what the first tweet was referencing, but some dickhead fan had replied something stupid because he's tribal, replied with a picture of Vince McMahon and said something like, Vince would never let his talent say that or do that. And MJF, in one of the most brazen tweets I've ever seen, replies with, you're right. He would have me fuck his secretary in front of him while he shits on her head. Get lost, bot. Holy crap. Boy, that's MJF not giving two fucks. And, I love the tweet. I don't have anything wrong with the tweet. I think fans that get uppity and get mad and angry, why in the hell are you getting mad and angry? You are a fan. You're just supposed to sit there and read this shit. Don't get yourself all agitated and rush to the defense of somebody who doesn't even know you exist. So don't get all mad about MJF's tweet. I saw people giving him shit. These are dudes with 4 years long of social media timelines full of AEW insults, calling Tony Khan every damn nickname in the book, accusing him of being on coke all the time, hard cam, pics and empty arenas, and just constant insults, negativity, hate on AEW years long, every day. It's their entire personality. And then they read that tweet from MJF and they tell him to act professional. Ay. So the tweet did not bother me. I like juicy stuff. The juicier, the better. When MJF tweeted that, I'm like, sweet. When Ricky Starks tweeted that, I'm like, sweet. I just like to see fucking social media burn. It's kind of fun. But one thing I will say about MJF's tweet, you have to wonder how smart a tweet like that is if the company is on the cusp or verge of doing business with Shane McMahon, because we don't really know how Vince's family feels about him, Like, you would think that Stephanie and Shane have got to completely just disown the bastard. But if you have to disown your father due to something horrific that he has done, even if he's done something really, really terrible, if it's your dad, it at least has to make you sad that it came to that. There's probably a big part of your heart that's in a lot of pain because your dad did something so unforgivable that now you've essentially lost your father. And if you have to hold him accountable to that, you would think that it's just probably something you wouldn't want to be reminded of. And if Shane's going to come to AEW and do business, who knows? Shane might just be so disgusted with his father, he does not care. I think if Shane does go to AEW or he signs with AEW and Shane McMahon starts making public appearances, and think about, go a few steps further than that. Let's say Shane McMahon signs with AEW. He's there. He joins the Elite, and he takes part in a pay-per-view match. What happens after pay-per-views? Scrums. You're either going to have to keep Shane completely off that scrum, or Shane is going to have to make some sort of public statement on his dad. I don't see how we cannot. And I think the fans are really going to demand that from him. It's like, look, Shane, before you can do anything, you got to we got to know where your head's at here, and that's unfortunately a situation that Vince has put Shane in, to where the fans are going to need some comments from him. And he might not be in the position, he might not be able to use the WWE as a shield the way Triple H is. Yeah, I just want to be positive, just want to talk about the future and positivity, and and because of the legal stuff, I can't really talk about it. Blah, blah. He can't say that. So if somebody just asks him directly, what are your thoughts on your father and your dad and all the accusations and the lawsuit and the Department of Justice investigating him and his home being raided and personal effects being seized and secretaries' heads that he's shitting on. What's your thoughts on all this, Shane O'Mac? He's going to have to say something. So, I think that's another really important thing if business is done here between these two guys, that I think it's very important for Shane to make a stand or make a stance or make a statement on Vince McMahon, say, I'm going to say one thing about it, and this is it, because I don't think fans are going to just need something like that from him before they can really move forward. You know what I mean? So with MJF's tweet, I just wonder if, calling attention to that and bringing that up is really smart if Tony Khan is in preliminary discussions with Shane McMahon to do business. And then maybe Shane is like, look, every single one of your top stars has shit on my dad on social media. So I just don't know if I want to work here. I don't know. I don't know. But you can't even blame. Shane wouldn't be able to blame them. Even if you're Vince McMahon's flesh and blood, his kids, what he's done. You can't, unless you're in a cult like the people wearing the red hat, unless you want to just pretend that this person's not doing all these horrible things, because that definitely does exist in this country, and if you just want to ignore it and just pretend, nope, Vince is all good and all powerful and all knowing and all wise, and he's completely innocent, and the government and Janelle Grant is phrasing him, and it's rigged, it's all rigged. If you want to be like that, but Shane McMahon likely isn't going to be that way. And I think anybody who would be grossed out by what Vince did, Shane should understand that. Shane, all you have to do is look at the facts, look at what he's done, read some of those text messages. You would also look at the other side of that coin and say Shane should understand. Shane might not like to hear and like to read what people are saying about his dad, but it's his dad that put himself in that position. So Shane might not super enjoy it, but I'm also thinking that Shane couldn't really blame anybody that wants to voice their disgust with what his dad has done. So I don't know, but the timing of the tweet was interesting. There's a lot of stuff surrounding MJF right now with the Britt Baker stuff and that tweet and the American Championship and all that. AEW, it's like they're never not a mess backstage. And I'm a big AEW fan. I think tribal fans are dumb. AEW haters are dumb, obsessing over Tony Khan, one man and his company existing, and a wrestler putting his hands in his pockets. Y'all need to have real problems and real lives, because these aren't real problems in any sort of real life. So I like AEW a lot. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. but I'm also going to be honest, when they've got some problems, and I usually always am. And with this Britt Baker stuff, it's like, do you guys, why is all this talent just so juvenile over there? There needs to be, Tony Khan, we've talked about it. We've talked about it for years. Tony Khan has leadership issues. And I wish he was a better leader. I wish he had a part of his personality that struck fear in the people who work for him, because that might help keep him in line. But, it's what it really comes down to is a lack of respect in my mind. I mean, if you got a boss, who's bending over backwards for you, paying you a ton of money, the least you can do is act professional backstage, but we've already had fights and brawls and slaps and suspensions. I mean, Miro and Andrade and Sammy Guevara's been suspended 3 times, and Britt, and how many suspensions and issues do we have to have in this company? They're only 5 years old. So these are some of the early lessons I hope this company learns, to where if we fast forward 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and AEW is celebrating their 20th anniversary, I would like to think this type of shit has been long taken care of. And it does not happen anymore. They need a strong, cohesive locker room and morale. And part of that is to have talent that's happy and that's also being satisfied with their TV time and their creative. So there's work to do on both sides there, but more unflattering news coming out of our friends in AEW this week. Isn't that nice? Let's see. We got a couple more supers here. Oh, a few more. Let me see. Where do we leave off? Zane, is it you? Nope. Mike, let me go. I got a few more. Percy G has been gifted a membership by the Juliet. Thank you for that, Juliet. Juliet and Superman Bassfisher hooking up people this week. That's very cool. Mike Witt, thank you for the $5, my friend. Not every week, but I think we need a live Raw reaction, Greg. Worst theme song, American Made or Girls in Cars? American Made, by far. Girls in Cars is a great song. I sing Girls in Cars every day in the shower when I'm lathering up my naked body. I love Girls in Cars. And yeah, I did a watch along, maybe like 2 months ago? And I think that whenever we have a Raw that might not look like there's a ton going on where I really need to come up here and do a review, we'll do a live reaction. I used to do Raw reactions back in the day. Did them for like 2 or 3 years straight. So maybe we'll bust one out next time we see a somewhat weaker Raw. Like whenever we have big gaps between pay-per-views, some of those Raws can tend to be filler. Some of those Raws really aren't worth coming up here and reviewing. So we will bust out a Raw watch-along again in the near future. Mike, I will do it for you. Zane G, 5 more from you, my friend. I know no one cares about this. I don't know if it's ever possible, but please elaborate on the WWE back to WWF thing, rumors, or red herring. That's got to be a red herring. Somebody brought it up over the weekend. I did look up something, and I did see a couple of tweets, but they weren't by anybody who I know or would trust. And anybody in wrestling media who I do know and trust hasn't said shit about this. But just looking at it logically, WWE rebranding back to WWF would be stupid. And this is from a guy that really hated that name change. I cannot believe they changed from WWF to WWE. But we are right around the time now where WWE has actually been the initials longer than WWF. I don't know the exact dates, but I think WWF changed from that to WWF around 79 maybe, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what year. And then WWF lasted until 2002. Well, that's been 22 years now. We've had WWE. And WWE had to spend a lot of money, millions of dollars, to rebrand and an ad campaign, and all of the millions of dollars and man hours they spent blurring out the fucking logo on all of their digital footage. And I mean, everything they had to do to change from WWF to WWE. And when WWF went corporate, or went public, their initials were they had a corporate website. Remember, WWFE, it was World Wrestling Federation Entertainment. So they just really dropped the federation. And so now you'd also be probably rebranding yourself publicly. All the fans now, you got a whole new generation of fans who have no recollection of WWF. They might have been born in 2001. I mean, their whole life is WWE. So now you're asking WWE, has a large portion of their audience is kids and people who are under the age of 22, who now are going to have to start saying WWF. And fans like me would love to bring that back for nostalgia, but I don't think it really makes much business sense. to now have to rebrand yourself back to WWF, back to World Wrestling Federation. You know, and with the merger with UFC, WWF and UFC, getting that old WWF logo back, like I would love if they brought that one right there where my finger is. Like if they brought back that logo and that was that would be great. But I really find that story to be a non-story. There's no way they can do that in my mind. I think it would be too expensive to do that. And it would just doing a rebrand just to do it. I mean, I wish that we never had to change from WWF, but unfortunately you did. Now you're WWE. I think you need to stick with that because I'm now, as a fan, pretty used to saying WWE. I think if I had to start saying WWF again, it would take me a while. It took me about 10 years. My first 2 or 3 years on this channel, I was still saying WWF by accident. So it took me 10 years to deprogram from that. Now I'm finally deprogrammed, and you want me to go back? We are not going back. I don't think it's going to happen, Zane G, but we will see. I will say this, even though I think WWE going back to WWF is a crazy story that's no way in hell that's going to happen, if it did, I'd be happy. I would actually stand behind it. The reason I say it's not going to happen because I just think that's just too much for WWE to do as a brand, as a company, to rebrand for shits and gigs. It's one thing if you're forced to do it, but they're going to be voluntarily doing this. No, I just don't see it happening. But if it did, I would like it. I would love if that beautiful little logo showed back up. I never know which finger to use when I'm looking at that. Anyway, Spectra's back. Good to see you, man. Appreciate the 5 from you. How was Raw? It was awesome. Didn't you see the title? A very good WWE Raw. Saw the Wyatt stuff. That was awesome. Don't think it'll get me back to WWE, but it was awesome. Also, how's your sister Liv? She's doing good. She's hooking up Dominic with the best, most divine chicken strips. He posted a picture last night of like 3 platters of chicken strips, but it's better stuff. Like Rhea Ripley was buying him shitty frozen nuggies with ketchup. Here he had beautiful, divine strips of white meat, free-range chicken. It was dusted with either cotija cheese or Parmesan and a little bit of basil and a nice homemade special secret sauce. Oh, it was so, he looked like he was dining well. That is upgraded, bougie chicken tenders. He's bougie now that he's with Liv Morgan. Zane, thank you for 5 more. Or Shane would be on, yeah, that's where he should do it. Shane would be on the Ariel Helwani podcast and break his silence, or maybe an RF shoot. Now, if this was 1998, he would absolutely be on an RF shoot in between, Rob Feinstein trying to meet little boys at Walmarts and stuff. But in between that, he would probably do an RF shoot, or Ariel Helwani would be the best place for that. Honestly, he would. Well, maybe not though, because he's kind of like, well, he doesn't really work for TKO, but Helwani does a lot with WWE. He did not enjoy his interview with Tony Khan. So I don't know if, I feel like that would be the best platform for Shane to say things. Either Ariel, or if you want to go on the pro wrestling side of it, you know who I would nominate? Chris Van Vliet. I would nominate Chris Van Vliet to interview Shane McMahon. Because Chris he's been able to collect enough good faith in the community where you could trust him to do that interview right and ask the right things. Where if Shane was at a scrum or a presser or something, the questions are just going to come flying at him, and he might not want to do that. I think being able to have a sit down with somebody, if Shane did sign with AEW, and he did, like maybe he debuted first, the very first thing he should do after his debut is have this interview. That way people can just see where his head's at and get that information, because I think that's what the fans are going to want to hear first more than anything else. And if he can do it on a platform like that, he can save all the stuff that he does on AEW TV for their storylines, to where none of that stuff really needs to be addressed on AEW. He can just do that in an interview. That's the way I think it should go. So yeah, we will see. No, definitely not talk as Jericho. He would not do that. He might. Appreciate you, Blunt Object, Jacob A., everybody else. saying hello to me. I want to thank you guys for being here tonight, and thank you for spending a lot of hours with me over the last 3 days. We were here 5 hours on Saturday for the big watch party review. We were here 3 hours last night for SummerSlam 93 and another 2 hours here. So that's 10 hours in the last 3 days that you guys have spent with me. I appreciate it. I love y'all. Hope you have a great rest of your week. You will see some content hitting the channel. I'll probably have some mic drops or some things, clips hitting the channel this week. If anything crazy happens on Dynamite, we'll be up here midweek to talk about it, and I will set us up for a watch-along this Sunday, and we will be back here, I believe, on Saturday for the podcast as normal, but I will keep you updated on that in case I have to change anything around. You guys will be seeing me this week, so thanks again for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Enjoy your week, and I'll be talking to y'all real soon.